So here we go. I am back on the road, and because I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of emails and direct messages asking me to get out to Montana and investigate this sage wall. Is this thing legit? Was this made by ancient aliens? Is this just a rock formation that happens to look like a wall? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer all of those things pretty much definitively, because unlike other YouTubers, I've actually explored the entire area around the sage wall for the entire week leading up to actually visiting the sage wall. And I've made some discoveries that are pretty much mind-blowing. So it's either this ancient megalithic wall was built by aliens, fallen angels, or a civilization that has been completely hidden from us. I'm going to try to uncover those questions in this video. So here, as they say, we go. The sage wall was discovered in a remote area of Montana in 1996 by a team of archaeologists doing a random, routine land survey. They uncovered a large series of stone formations that were carefully arranged in geometric patterns, and these were unlikely to be the result of natural processes. The initial dating indicates the site could be over 5,000 years old. Now, when I was at the place, I talked to the owner, Chris, and he told me that they had recently just done deep penetrating radar and LiDAR, and he promised me to get those results to me as soon as he got them. So hopefully that's inbound and I can get that done before this video is over, but it might be another video. At any rate, here's the journey. We live in a world where there were many people that came before us, people that are considered the quote-unquote authorities or the rulers or the kings or the presidents, etc., so forth, and blah, blah, blah. But what they tell us about our history and many of these mysterious things that could not have possibly have been made by people of lower technology using massive amounts of slaves to build things that we cannot duplicate today. So what am I saying? I'm saying that history is a lie agreed upon by the victors. Now, if you have a hard time believing that authority figures would lie, well, let's take a look at the Epstein list, just to start with, you know what I mean? Or let's find out how much gold was in Fort Knox. Or what about all those drones that were harassing the east coast of the United States for 2 months? Do you see where I'm getting at? At any rate, over the last decade, I have been to every single strange, anomalous mound, cave, structure in the United States that I could find. The Great Serpent Mound in Ohio. I was one of the first people to put up 4K drone footage of it years ago. Lovelock Cave, something where red-haired giants were found out in Nevada. I've been there. I videotaped it. The Gateway to Hell in Arizona. A great story. A sad ending, but a great story nonetheless. I've been in that cave and underneath it. The Georgia Guidestones, before they were mysteriously blown up, I was there. So this was no different. When people started sending me emails and DMs, I started paying attention, but not that much attention. And then finally, a buddy of mine who's an author gave me a good push, and I made my way out to Montana. And what a ride it was. In case you hadn't noticed, I found myself in a very remote location. There was not a lot of towns nearby. This was a pretty off the beaten track place, big time. And coincidentally, I found a camping area called Toll Mountain Road where you can camp and it doesn't cost you anything. So I had set up camp there for 3 days and 4 nights, 4 days and 3 nights. Yeah, that. And I found a lot of crazy things along the way. I found myself in all sorts of trouble. But what I wanted to do was scout the entire local area for rock formations because I wanted to see if anything in the area looked anything like a wall. Because I've got time to kill because my appointment, because you have to make an appointment to get to the Sage Wall. My appointment wasn't till Monday at 2 p.m. So I got there on a Friday or a Thursday, one of the two. It's been a long trip. I don't even know. But I started scouting out the area because I wanted to debunk this if possible, one way or the other. I mean, that's the way you're supposed to go into things. And these are some of the rock formations that I found. But the rock formations aren't even the strangest thing. Something I found out here just totally blew my mind completely. And that would be this one rock right here. That was about 1.5 miles away from the Sage Wall and about 1.5 miles away from my campground. I'm on my mountain bike if you haven't figured that out as of yet. But take a look at this rock. This rock is massive. And there's a strange thing about this rock that I just couldn't quite wrap my head around. It had a perfect 90-degree cut made in it. And it also had marks on it that looked exactly like an ice cube tray. They were perfect squares. Perfect squares. You don't see that stuff in nature. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of rocks out in Wyoming, out in Colorado, out in New Mexico, California. You name it, I've seen them. I got a thing with rocks. But this was perfectly dead nuts flat, square, as though somebody cut out a massive cube or mined it, or like a quarry. But the funny thing about this is, if this was natural and this just broke off, the rock was nowhere to be seen. Whatever was taken out of this stone was taken someplace else because it was nowhere to be seen. I can't stress that enough. And I'm glad that I actually got there and had days to kill before my appointment at the Sage Wall because I got an opportunity to see things like this. This made 0 sense. Absolutely 0 sense. This rock, the cut was about 13 to 15 feet tall. It was about 6 to 7 feet deep, squared either direction. But the rock that was there was nowhere to be found. As you can see, I'm panning around with the camera, and there's no giant square rock or a couple of rocks that used to be a giant square rock. Whoever cut this out took it with them. And that is a common theme throughout ancient Egypt, out in Colombia, Bolivia, all the other countries, Peru, that have strange anomalies like this. And apparently we've got them in Montana. Strange, right? But it is what it is. But that's not even the strangest thing. I found crazy rock formations all over the place. Many of them looked not natural at all, but I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's just the landscape. But the thing I found to be the most crazy thing I stumbled upon by accident. Now, bear in mind, I'm out here completely alone, and this is grizzly bear country. So anytime I stride out into a field and get far away from my vehicle, I have to keep my head on a swivel to make sure a bear doesn't show up and make me into a picnic basket. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. But check this out. I wandered out into a field, and this is what I found. I'm out in this field, and of course my natural curiosity for any type of a foxhole or any type of a mammal that lives underground, of course I'm going to look at it because that's how I am. I'm a little kid. But look at this. I'm out in the middle of this large field. It didn't used to be a farm or anything like that, and there's tons and tons of large trees all over the place, scattered about, and like I said, head on a swivel, grizzly bears. I'm really paying attention for grizzly bears. And as you can see, there's trees absolutely everywhere. And I don't really take any note of it until I continue to move forward. And the more I look around, the more I'm noticing the strange tree rock anomalies. You know, just a weird thing, like the way this tree was growing around or the way this rock was forced into the tree, I just found strange. But it would get even stranger. So my attention's focused on this rock and this tree. And I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't look like the tree grew around it because it looks like blunt force trauma, like the rock was forced into the tree. And I found that really interesting because when I started filming owls and things of that nature, I really developed a appreciation for trees. You know what I'm saying? We live in a place where people are trying to cut down all the trees at a rapid pace. So when you find some interesting ones, to me at least, it's interesting. And I'm also noticing how just random rocks out in the middle of a field that doesn't belong to anybody are completely flat on the bottom. And then I start noticing, I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of trees. But I'm also looking for grizzlies. I can't stress that enough. I'm noticing the shapes of the rocks and how they're incredibly flat. But then I'm noticing that this tree is growing directly on top of a rock. So I start looking at the roots and I'm thinking to myself, how is such a large tree growing on top of a rock? And I see the roots, you know, it is what it is. I'm out here killing time and filming. And then I really notice something strange. The more I look around, I'm starting to realize that not only did that tree grow on top of a rock, but it appears that all the trees are growing on top of rocks. And then I realize the trees are only growing on top of rocks. And I've never seen this before. And again, the Bighorn Mountains, the Rocky Mountains, the White Mountains, the Green Mountains. I've been absolutely everywhere, and I've never seen this before, and it's starting to freak me out. And it's also making me lose focus on the fact that I'm supposed to be paying attention for predators, and I'm not, because this is freaking me out. It's this moment right here I realize, wait a minute, the only place trees are growing is on top of rocks. I've never seen that before. It's freaking me out. The trees only grow on the rocks? I don't know what to make of this. But I mean, there's only trees where there's rocks. I don't know what that means. I don't even, wait a minute. The trees only grow on the rocks. Are you seeing this? Internet friends. And I mean, there's no tree stumps from clear cutting the place, you know what I mean? There's no crops here. I don't understand what's going on here. I don't understand this. The trees only grow on the rocks. I mean, the only place there's trees is on top of the rocks. I'm freaking out here. I've never seen this. Alright, that tree's not on a rock. But this one sure is. What does that mean? Every place there's a rock, there's a tree. What the fuck? Alright, I don't understand this. I never heard about this. This is crazy. The trees only grow on the rocks. I don't understand this. I know I keep repeating myself, but hopefully I'll edit this out. Here's the roots. They are extensive and they are basically above ground, which leads me to believe there's very solid rock under this. Pretty easy conclusion to draw when you're on a mountain, right? Roots. The roots. Tree roots. Trees growing on rocks. Trees growing on rocks, on rocks, on rocks, on rocks, on rocks. Okay. I don't know what this means. So I know it was kind of monotonous, but I have never seen anything like this whatsoever at all. And I film rocks. You've seen me film rocks. You've seen me film trees. In the middle of this huge mountain valley pass with what appeared to be a river wash running right through the center was this enormous pile of boulders, and they were massive. In North America, we have a variety of landscapes from sea to shining sea. In every place I've been, I've always focused on rock formations because we have so many crazy different types of rock formations, and all of them have a story tied to them one way or the other. And more times than not, they also have the word devil tied to them. More times than not, for whatever reason, going right back to the first national monument in the United States, which would be Devil's Tower in Wyoming. So I pay attention to rocks. It's just a thing. I just never saw this, and I stumbled upon it completely and totally by accident. I don't understand this. I just do not understand this in any way whatsoever at all. And when I talked to the locals, because in 4 days I ran into a lot of locals up on the mountain, because when you're on their mountain, they make themselves known, which is smart. But not only were there strange rock formations absolutely everywhere, and not only that, I was losing my faith in this entire rock wall thing, because I'm looking around going, I'm looking at tons of natural formations that look exactly like walls. Well, that wasn't entirely true, because I eventually made my way to the rock wall, and it was a long trip. And when you make an appointment with them and they give you a pinpoint or coordinates, use them. Apparently I missed that part of my email that he sent me, and I tried to use my GPS, and it was a comedy of failures because I was just driving around in circles on private property with people with their trigger on the finger. You know what I'm saying. It was disconcerting, but I did finally make my way to the Sage Wall, and didn't realize it was a 15-minute hike from the parking spot up to the wall itself, and it's completely straight up. And 2 o'clock, like clockwork, it started raining. So it was fantastic, but this is what it looked like. This is what it's going to look like if you decide to go there, but I'm going to give you the full experience. I'm in a hotel room. I'm editing this. It's huge gigabytes I'm using right now, and it's going to take forever, but in my opinion, it's worth it because I'm going to show you what everybody else didn't show you. So here we go. After driving for a while, even though I was only about 1.5 miles away from it, I was getting lost. So it is what it is. But the strangest thing is, the closer I got to the compound or to the reserve, I couldn't help but notice that all the trees were dead. All of them. It was weird. I actually pulled over and filmed it. And because I was so close to the Sage Wall, or the reserve where it was at, finally, after waiting out in the woods for 4 days, I walked up to this strange structure thinking, maybe this is part of the Sage Wall Reserve, etc. But I couldn't help but notice that I was just on the other side, and everything was growing. Trees were growing on every rock. But when you come over by the Sage Wall, all the trees were dead. It was just an odd, strange, crazy thing. I can't explain it, don't know what it means, but there you go. Little tidbit for you. So after going over a few instructions, I head up the trail. And like I said previously, the trail is very steep. Takes about 15 minutes. And remember, a week prior to this visit, I was at 0 sea level. And now I'm at 6,000, climbing up to 6,500. So remember that. ...400-year-old Douglas fir trees, the spectacular views of Ruby Valley 20 miles away, and the Highland mountain range sitting at a 10,000-foot elevation. Over the years on YouTube, I had become a huge fan of a YouTuber called Brian Forrester, and he goes out to places like Pumapunku, Gobekli Tepe. He's gone out and actually held the elongated skulls in Peru, etc. So that's what actually spurred my interest in rocks and rock formations, especially in the United States. In every video I saw of somebody making the Sage Wall video, they didn't show as much as I would like to have seen. Something that I could actually put into a video form and send to somebody like Brian Forrester, which I did. I wanted to get as much footage as humanly possible while I was there. And the sad thing is I waited 4 days to get there. I spent my 2 hours climbing up there and getting the best footage I could possibly think of. And then pretty much that was that. So this video is going to be very footage heavy. And that is what it is. For those that are interested, you're going to want to see this. But I mean, if you look at this thing from the sky, it is perfectly lined up. I mean, it's lined up perfect, straight as an arrow. It's very, very long. It's very, very tall. And it's very, very interesting to look at. And I got all my footage. I got all the information I could. And I made my way out of there. Only for a friend of mine who's an author named Miguel to remind me that, did you do compass tests? Did you measure things to see if anything was symmetrical? Things of that nature. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I didn't. Because the 15-minute walk up there in the rain actually took me aback. Because again, just a week prior, I was at 0 foot sea level. And when I'm up here, I'm at 6,500 feet. And I just climbed up 500 feet. So I went back again. And the owner of the Sage Wall was nice enough to let me come back in for free and simply do all sorts of different tests, which is exactly what I did. I wanted to find out definitively if that was possible, to discover if this was a natural formation or if it was made by the hands of man. So I went back. The second time around, I brought myself a compass. I brought a compass, I brought a square, and I brought a tape measure. And I had a few questions from outside sources that I was going to be able to answer, hopefully, when I went to the Sage Wall the second time. So that's what this looks like. This is my second time around. And granted, I was in Vancouver, Washington when I got these questions. So I had to drive all the way back to Montana to get this information. But it is what it is. So the second time around, I had a head camera on. So you're going to see this in first person, basically. And you're going to hear what I had to say as I was there. And you're going to see the testing that I did to try to either prove or disprove this. So second time around, I've got a head camera on and I'm holding a hand camera because I want to get as much of this on film as I possibly can, because not many people go very in depth when they go to the Sage Wall. I wanted to do the exact opposite. When you get there, you have to climb up a rope to get to the upper level. And you'll notice that I'm on the other side of the Sage Wall and I'm on an enormous natural mound or mountainside. And on this side, the quote-unquote Sage Wall is only 2 blocks high. And that kind of caught my attention because I just didn't notice that the first time around. I'm thinking to myself, why would you build a wall when there's already a natural barrier there? Do you know what I mean? I just couldn't figure that one particular thing out. So I thought that was odd. And now I start testing. No magnetic anomalies that I'm seeing. When I say I'm testing for magnetic anomalies, I'm using a real deal military compass with tritium in it to see if this somehow sets off the compass in any magnetic way. And this video is going to be very long because I want people that are interested in this to be able to see up close and personal better than they've seen it any place before. And I say that from experience because I researched the Sage Wall unbelievably before I actually got to go there. Not once, but twice. No magnetic anomalies that I'm seeing. These are the nubs they were comparing to Pumapunku, but it just looked like there was a much harder rock. The rest eroded and this stayed, but I don't know. And they also said that this was a deliberate cutout right here. This camera on my head is really driving me crazy, but no anomalies of any type. A few little dugouts, I guess. You know what? I'm starting to wonder if I wasted my time coming back here, because I remembered it slightly different, as you often do, but I mean, there's a T-rock on the website But I don't know where it is. I can't locate it. It's a T-rock that's very similar to the H-rocks found at Pumapunku and at Gobekli Tepe, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, some moisture's coming down. Look at that sky. Otherwise, we don't get this in Massachusetts ever. So with my testing of magnetic anomalies failing, I decided to break out the tape measure and see if any of these strange wedge-looking rocks. All along the wall, there were a lot of upside-down, elongated triangular rocks that, on my first visit, looked like something I would use if I was building a masonry rock wall. They look like shims. So I went back with a tape measure this time to see if there was any, if they were symmetrical, if they were man-made, or if they just happened to be rocks that looked like they were man-made but were indeed natural. So I broke out the tape measure. "83 inches. "91 inches. Okay. So there's nothing to that. This is all natural, okay? But then it drops down 12 inches and goes back over. But then you've got this perfect triangular wedge. The rocks are exactly wedge shaped. They line up top. So they're in line, they're in line, they're in line, they're in line. Everything's in line, and then it drops down. And according to the LiDAR and ground penetrating, there is a thick base below this. That's what the owner says. I have not seen the proof. So with my magnetic testing failing, now my measuring testing was also failing, sadly, because they were not symmetrical, but they were incredibly close. We're talking off by about 1.25 inches on each side, but they were not perfectly symmetrical, like something that was specifically cut. So on that, I don't know what to say. So the magnetism failed, the measuring seems to have failed, but then I did notice some strange cuts in the rocks, or what appeared to be cuts. And this looks more like a cut. Than a crack. Do you know what I mean? This looks much more like a cut than a crack because it doesn't keep traveling. It just stops. But it goes all the way down. I drove back 800 miles to redo this, to do these 3 tests, the magnetism, the measurements, and right angle tests, and sadly all of them failed. Or I did them wrong, one of the two. But if you go back to the websites with all the information on the Sage Wall, it says that in 1996 archaeologists discovered this, and the owner actually told me they discovered it when they were clearing away timber. And in the 1996 paperwork, it says that they did ground penetrating radar and LiDAR back then, but I can't find any proof. And when I was there this time around, the owner told me the same thing. And strangely, the owner doesn't want to be on camera, which I find it odd because he charges people to come here, view it, and charges them to actually film it, but doesn't want to be on camera for whatever that's worth. Now, here's the strange thing. Like I had said previously on my first trip out there, I had spent 4 days walking around in the woods filming unusual rock formations, and they were everywhere. things that looked very similar, but nothing that looked like this. This was a giant wall. But who builds a giant wall like this right against a natural barrier that's already there? Do you see what I mean? The rocks are 20-something feet tall when you're standing on one side, and when you get on the other side, they're 17 inches tall. It doesn't make that much sense. So is this real? Or do we just want it to be real? It's very, very tough to tell. I mean, we've got mounds, we've got Devil's Tower, we've got American Stonehenge up in New Hampshire. We've got a lot of strange anomalies that history completely does not tell us the truth about. So when you discover things like this, you want to go out here and investigate for yourself. Well, many people can't for a variety of reasons. So I took it upon myself to do this. Not once, but twice. And my takeaway is, I don't know. I sent raw video, to several people, including Brian Forrester, and the answer they all gave me was, it's a natural rock formation. But that's a really hard pill to swallow when you hike all the way up there, come around the corner, and then in the middle of the woods, there appears to be what is a massive rock wall. So I guess it's up to you. Hopefully I've given you enough evidence to look at to least make your own decision. Or make your own trip up there yourself and tell me what you think. At any rate, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below, and I'll try to return the favor. I am out.